Senator Thom Tillis announcing over the weekend that he will not be seeking re-election in 2026. It comes after the North Carolina Republican broke with this party over Trump's big, beautiful bill, saying prior to the vote that he would not support it.
That move prompted a wave of attacks from the president. Trump, in a Truth Social post, writing in part, North Carolina will not allow one of their senators to grandstand in order to get some publicity for himself for a possible but very difficult re-election. America wants reduced taxes, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. Interest deductions on cars, border security, a strong military, and a bill which is great for our farmers, manufacturers, and employment in general. Thom Tillis is making a big mistake for America and the wonderful people of North Carolina. Trump followed that up with this post after the vote. Thom Tillis has hurt the great people of North Carolina. Even on the catastrophic flooding, nothing was done to help until I took office. Then a miracle took place. Tillis is a talker and a complainer, not a doer.
Then on Sunday, Tillis announced that he would not be seeking re-election. Tillis said, in part, quote, I haven't exactly been excited about running for another term. The choices between spending another 6 years navigating the political theater and partisan gridlock in Washington, or spending that time with the love of my life, Susan, our 2 children, 3 beautiful grandchildren, and the rest of our extended family back home. It's not a hard choice, and I will not be seeking re-election.
Trump taunted him, saying, great news, Senator Thom Tillis will not be seeking re-election. But Tillis didn't stay quiet about who should replace him. Take a look at what he had to say just a few hours after the president's final jab. He wrote, thanks for the retirement wishes, Mr. President. Looking forward to working with you for a successful 2026. Word to the wise, let's avoid mini soldier. Mini soldier made in reference to former Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who Trump endorsed in the North Carolina governor's race last November. During that race, Robinson was linked to the handle Mini Soldier on several online accounts, including a pornographic website where he made a series of inflammatory remarks on a message board, including proclaiming himself a black Nazi and expressing support for reinstating slavery.
All right, well, first, when you look at Senator Thom Tillis and what he's pointing to with the political theater and the partisan gridlock in the Senate, I actually think we should take a moment to discuss that a bit, because when you see a number of these Republicans who've left both the House and the Senate over the last number of years, many of them point to those exact issues. They come in wanting to make a difference. They witness the kind of theater you need to do to stay in office. You have to toe the party line. And if you oppose MAGA, if you oppose Trump at any point, you're going to get a well-funded primary opponent. And I think Thom Tillis' race already was going to be one of the vulnerable re-election races in the United States. The DNC chair, Ken Martin, had already targeted North Carolina as a top pickup opportunity. And so you're saying to yourself, if you're Thom Tillis, do I really want to go through a bruising general election battle again? And then now, as a result of voting against this bill, go through a bruising primary battle, which I can say as a former candidate for U.S. Senate, those are not fun experiences at all. And so I do think that we need to be thinking about how we can incentivize more independent-minded senators. I recently ran into former Congressman Mike Gallagher and Will Hurd recently in D.C., and kind of like an endangered species, not too many Republicans like them still in office.
Yeah, and look, I mean, part of it, though, is not just Trump, but the voters, right? North Carolina is a unique place, as is Kentucky with Thomas Massey. But I do think that over the past 10 years, since Trump really rose to prominence, you do see a lot of maybe the squishier or more moderate Republicans getting primaried by the voters. And that's not just a money thing. Like, money alone can't buy an election, right? That's an ideology thing, and people wanting to have people who are voting with President Trump. Now, all of that being said, I think that this one thing being the reason that Trump turned on Thom Tillis is a little bit over dramatic. I'm curious to see who they decide to run in this now open primary. I've heard 2 names.
Yeah.
I've heard Laura Trump, of course, but she's in Florida now and has like a million shows, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. But the other one is R-N.C. Chair Michael Whatley.
Yep. Yeah, and so we'll see which candidate they put up, and it'll probably be a competitive race. I still think it's so funny how quickly the announcement came from Thom Tillis. Like, sometimes you see a senator, a member of Congress, who challenges their party. the heat gets a little too hot, and then maybe weeks later, months later, this is what happened with Mike Gallagher, for example, they say they're not going to seek re-election or they resign a little bit early. No time was lost in this case. This was hours later, Senator Tillis saying that he's not going to run for re-election. And so I actually tried to find out a little bit more on what's really going on there. And my sense of the situation is that when you oppose President Trump on a signature domestic policy priority, we live in a time where members of Congress and senators are actively getting death threats. Their families their safety is at risk. You're getting a ton of verbal abuse, both online and in traditional media. And I think he immediately wanted to try and prevent as much of that as possible by saying, hey guys, I'm not going to be running for re-election. One interesting thing to watch, though, will be the next 18 months, because he has already signaled this publicly, he's going to be able to be even more independent-minded. He's going to be able to call balls and strikes how he sees them. He has no political pressures. He doesn't have any fundraising pressures, which often, we have a system of legalized bribery in Congress. So if you don't have that fundraising pressure, you can truly call the issues how you see them and be an independent senator, which I think Americans will benefit from. I also, by the way, got to quickly point out, part of the reason why these primary challenges are so difficult for Republican senators, and you see it on the Democratic side as well, is because many states have closed primaries and partisan primaries. If we want to see more members of Congress represent the broad general public of the United States, I believe we need to open up those primaries. And I think Thom Tillis, I don't know if it would have changed his decision in this place because he had a tough general election, but it allows him to not be always looking over his shoulder at a far-right opponent.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, North Carolina is an interesting place. The last Senate election, 2022, Ted Budd beat out Sherry Beasley by, 3 points? So it was very close, right? And that was in a cycle where Republicans were predicted to perform very well. Everyone was talking about the red wave. That never happened. Now Republicans are dealing with a more politically challenging climate heading into 2026 in a state that is increasingly purple and has elected blue governors pretty consistently over the past few cycles. I do think no matter who it is that runs to replace Thom Tillis is going to have an uphill battle. It's going to be a real dogfight, I think, in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to have, the Research Triangle, you have a lot of blue or purple voters moving in to that area. But it also comes down to whether the Democrats can field a good candidate
That's
as well.
True.
I've noticed that the Democratic Party has had trouble being an effective opposition party over the last 6 months. So even though this is a pickup opportunity, I'm not convinced they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot.
That's a fair point. All right, next up, Chief Justice John Roberts issued a warning to lawmakers using heated rhetoric against judges. That's next.